Alright, so what's up, it's your boy Stark OJ, and I'm back here with another video. Now, this video is going to be the first installment or first episode of my Danganronpa Afterthoughts series, where I go back, go through the first, the second, and the V3 game. And UDG might come a little bit a little bit later, but yeah, but those are the big three I'm really going to do with this series. So honestly, let's start. The first episode is obviously going to be covering the first game of the series, Trigger Happy Havoc. I have put a spoiler thing in the front. So honestly, it will be spoilers involved, because I would really be talking about stuff that will ruin your experience if you have heard it and stuff like that. So honestly, if you kind of skip past that, honestly, I would require, skip out the video now if you haven't finished the series. Not the series, but at least finish this game, because there will contain a lot of spoilers for it. But yeah, now that, the people that, that I'm just gonna be spoiler. I'm walking all in spoiler territory right now. But honestly, I feel like the first game, I'm gonna get the cons out first, because I feel like honestly the cons are like my least worries about the series, because the series itself is great. But honestly, I want to get my cons off, especially first, because I really have a lot of positives to talk about over the cons. Now, cons. The thing that I feel like this game is, I feel like one of these cons is can be used as a pro later, and that's exactly what I'm gonna do with it. But first con is kind of like, since it's the first game of the series, it gets, it really doesn't have any replay value to a certain extent, because of how the answer feels final and does, and there's no reason to really play it anymore, because it doesn't feel like you'll gain any more information like you will in like you will in the other two games. But the first game, you really don't get that. It feels like all the answers are presented there enough for you, and even if there's stuff that was hidden for you, I feel like everything, Jinko pretty much explained everything at the end of the first game, in her trial, when you finally found out that she was the one manipulating the strings behind the whole entire thing that they was going through. And I feel like honestly, she gives you all the answers, and there's no really way you can dispute it, or anything else that you can be in the story where haha, stuff like that. She pretty much gave you all the answers. So I feel like honestly, there's no really replay value in it, because honestly, you don't have any more ideas that you can concoction up because of what she did in that story. Not saying it's necessarily a bad thing. I feel like honestly, it's a con. When I say it's a con, it's one of the weaknesses of the game. I don't mean it's really super a bad thing. I just saying it doesn't have as much replay value as the other two games. The second con I really dislike is kind of like how the characters were less involved in the trial. I feel like honestly, they'll give you one note answers, and it'll probably be Makoto this, Makoto that. Makoto do this. Even though there's always probably, even in most cases, there's always at least two people that know the answer to a certain crime or murder, and they just don't sit there and say nothing. Sit there and say anything, or they don't try to at least add anything to the discussion, other than when Makoto says something oh yeah, they're on this road, or they just might tip you off in the wrong direction or something like that. Honestly, I'm kind of glad that the second game picked up on this and kind of started doing it, and in the V3 just improved it way farther as far as that, as a concept of and that's a concept that I'll talk in those two games when I get to them. But honestly, I feel like that's pretty much enough cons for right now. I really don't see any more cons to a certain thing. The only really con that I really just it also has is probably some of the weakest cases, mainly because it's the first game. The first case was pretty much going to be easy, because it's meant to be a tutorial to the game, and the first introduction to the game. But I feel like honestly, after that, it's not really many just memorable cases. As far as the other two, they have really great cases, usually from start to finish, compared to where the first game was really kind of just getting into the series. There's certain good cases, there's great cases that all will stand out, such as the fourth case, which is Sakura's trial and stuff like that. But there's not that many bankers compared to 2 and V3. But yeah, now, let's get to the positives. Honestly, what I really just love about this is, one of the things that I feel that I really just enjoy about this is the characters. Now, I know that they weren't involved in the characters, the trials as much. But honestly, outside the free time events and stuff like that, I feel like honestly you could tell, like, when I heard that, like, when I was first doing like a bunch of like listening to a bunch of like Danganronpa and Danganronpa channels and stuff like that about like how Kodaka wrote every character to be kind of like the protagonist and star in their own story. And I feel like honestly I can get that from each character. Even though like in the trials and the main story some of the characters didn't shine, I feel like in the free time events, can make you like really any character to a certain extent, like once you get to learn more and more about them. Like honestly I feel like Genocide Show like slash Tuko Fukawa became more of an interesting character after I started, doing her free time events and stuff like that. And I feel like honestly that's how it is with a lot of characters. A lot of characters don't get a lot of shine and a lot of characterization until, free time events. And honestly that's like a weakness on the series itself. But it's kind of like rewarding people for, actually wanting to hang out with this character and you want to learn more about this character and you getting more invested into a character instead of like trying to fit it all in one thing when sometimes characters aren't kind of necessary to the story at all times. Like, but yeah. But I feel like, honestly, I can feel that because each character feels like they're going through their own story. Like, with Danganronpa, we're playing as the protagonist, Makoto Naegi. But, honestly, within their own story, a lot of them have their own story to tell. They're all either ultimates or have some kind of life to the point where, like, they can be the protagonists of their own story. Where, like, if they were literally was in the solo spin-off of the series, that, like, even like majority of the characters that nobody really likes, you will find something interesting about that side story and stuff like that. And honestly, even though, like I said, it has the weakest cast in the first game, it's just so amazing that even though this cast that I say the weakest is out of all the series, it's still that good to the point where you can sense that every character could be their own protagonist and still have an interesting story and everything about it. Except for Makoto, but Makoto's Makoto. I like Makoto too, but he's like a great protagonist for the series. It is Danganronpa, and that's kind of like that's about it. Like I like him because he fits the role, and there's a lot of development. He has good development, but as far as like characters, like honestly, he can start his like Danganronpa is his like protagonist story. So yeah, I mean like he's not a bad character, nowhere near a bad character, but like nowhere near my favorite protagonist in the series. So yeah. But yeah, that's about the character. The trials, now, like I said, I know the trials like don't really have any standout, but honestly, I feel like the character trial, like the way the character, the trial number 2 and number 4 are written is really inspired, like really great to me. Even like chapter 5, like chapter 6's. I want to say 6 trials are always good. Chapter 5 trials usually are good, but this one has, this game has the weakest one out of all of them. But yeah, that 6th chapter, that the end of it all, and let me see, the Bondo one and the Sakura one are all my favorite trials in those games, and they stand out the most in this game, and mainly because of how well everything was written and how each of those affected more than just one person. Like with the Mondo case, the Mondo stuff ended up affecting Taka, and after they just had a friendship, stuff like that, and it ended up affecting him throughout the whole entire story. His relationship with other people and how certain things Sakura's child ended up helping out, seeing Al have like big character development and more character moments instead of just being a idiot swimmer girl, like Toka like to say. It made sure she was involved more into the story and actually had a stake in what was going on instead of being an airhead in her own role. Now for the 6th trial, it has always been that like character info dump where you get the basis of the story, like where a character like Junko is telling you everything that has happened so far, why they planned this and everything like that, so and so far. Like it's pretty much like a final antagonist ball or like a mastermind role. That's pretty much what Junko did with the Killing Games itself. There's always a mastermind to a certain point, and like they're always the white like among the students. Even though it's a concept that seems like it might be boring, the way that everything is made up and how everything is built up has always hit so well, especially in this first game. Honestly, Junko is probably one of my favorite one of my favorite female antagonists. And it's probably the only one that I'll ever put on the top 10 list of how well she is, written. I thought, honestly, even though she's a character that literally lives on despair, a character that looks like she only has one note, she has really a lot. That one note is pretty much what she needs to be such a great character in itself. The fact that even if I would say that one note, but still has a lot more to a certain extent. Like, even though she was just a spare, she controlled the role, and she really wasn't one foe for that role. Like, there's a lot of characters that instantly, like Obito when Naruto gave him that speech. Makoto gave her a speech, but she still took her own life because that's what she promised, and she needed to feel that despair. I feel like Junko gets herself into situations where she's doomed to fail. Like, there's a lot of things that she could do to win the game. Honestly, if she wasn't trying to feel about rules, worry about publics, there's so many things that she can do to win the game. And honestly, I feel like for her to stay into that character for so long and still be able to pull it off, and also being able to keep her own motives, like her own reasons for doing that in check, and not be able to turn so easy from it like other antagonists do. I honestly feel like that's why she's probably my only female antagonist in the top 10. Because literally, majority of female antagonists always either gets beat by the protagonist and fall in love with them, or either crazy girl, crazy, just really crazy. Now, that works for certain things, certain antagonists, but honestly, I feel like those two tropes should be expanded more. Like, Junko is crazy, but she is more than just a crazy girl. There's a lot more to her character and stuff like that. So I feel like, honestly, Junko is a mastermind for this series. It has always been just astounding to me, and I really just like how she is written. I'm stuttering now. But yeah, let me see. What else can I add to this? As far as going, the story itself is so great. Like, honestly, I feel like one of the biggest things that I really noticed about I think I'm saying that right. Writing is how well he can go back, and certain plot holes that don't make sense all make sense at the end. And it's not just and it doesn't feel like he's trying to cover his own ass. I say the same thing about Isayama. Isayama doesn't feel like he's trying to cover his own ass when he leaves these stuff out. It feels like he lists these stuff out on purpose to make sure that when these does come back, you're like, oh, I didn't know that. And it feels like a real plot twist, and it feels like a real story development. Even though it's covering something that's happened in the past. Honestly, I feel like those are the best type of writings for me. Honestly, when a writer leaves something that he or she knows, the audience is gonna question the credibility of, and when it finally is brought back up to the point where I left this here on purpose, so when this happened, it hits way harder. And honestly, I feel like with Kodaka writing, like I said, even though this Trigger Happy Havoc is one of the weakest story written in the series, this series is still immaculate when it comes to story ideas and concepts, and how well that technique that he uses with the plot holes and filling them back in works so well with the series, and especially in this first game. Honestly, I really love Kodaka's writing, and this is pretty much what made me think about certain writing, is how this type of technique can be used, and it can be used, and how great it is to feel that type of thing where everything that felt like a plot hole comes back and be filled in, and just doesn't feel like something that Arthur forgot. It feels like something they planned all the way along. like they're Yagami from, all according to Kekaku. All according to plan type of vibes. But yeah. As far as the other thing I really want to talk about, I feel like, honestly, to give my honest review on this series, on this game, I really love it. I feel like, honestly, Makoto's maybe not my favorite protagonist, but I really love how he develops and he fits into this story. I feel like, honestly, a lot of people might jump on him for having that attitude, like, I'm nobody, like this. But honestly, I feel like, it's one of those things that makes him who he is. The thing is that a lot of people might jump on him for being a standard, nothing characteristic about him, but filled in with a lot of other characters that literally have vibrant and different personalities. Of course, he's always gonna look blame because he's literally the ultimate lucky student, and that's literally all he has to his name. It's not no real talent. He's just an optimistic boy that literally just won out of a lottery. Like I said, And now I'm not saying that talent can't be, can't be used perfectly, because one of my favorite characters in fiction literally has the same talent, which we'll get to at a later date. Like with next time I do this video. But yeah, honestly, the Danganronpa series, like I said, McCullough fits that perfectly, and I feel like honestly the complaints about him are being bland and stuff like that. It's kind of honestly what his character is going for. It's kind of what the character is like is supposed to be compared to all the vibrant and thing personalities about him, because he's like the underdog, and not really the underdog, but like a little man in the series where like everybody else around him has bigger personalities and stuff like that, and he feels ordinary, and there's reasons, there's absolutely good reasons for him to feel like that. But yeah, as far as everything else, I love the antagonists. I love the cases. Like I said, even though the cases doesn't really have stand out, I feel like honestly those cases just hit the fourth, the second, fourth, and sixth just hit throughout the whole entire thing. And the plot twist itself, the story itself is just great, man. I feel like I honestly love it. Like I said, even though it doesn't have like a playthrough video, like honestly, I saw the title of a Danganronpa review video of the first game, and they're saying the game that you should never play twice. And honestly, I feel like that's how it is. You should play it once, experience the story, make sure you get everything out of it though. Just pay attention to it. Pay attention to the story and what the story is trying to tell you. And honestly, I feel like it's a game that you really shouldn't come back to, because it might sully certain things and nothing really just changes about it. But yeah, this has been episode 1 of Danganronpa Afterthoughts. Part 2, which is going to be covering Goodbye, Despair, and Hope, I think. Danganronpa 2. That episode will be coming soon. I'm glad I'm finally trying to get these videos out to you. But honestly, if you're but this this is it. This has been Stark OJ. If you're new here, you like this video, you can subscribe. Let me restart that back over. This has been Stark OJ. Hope you like this video. This is part 1 of a 3-episode series or 4-episode series if I do UGG. But honestly, if you like these kind of videos, can you give a thumbs up? Share this video if you really want to share it with your friends and stuff like that. If you're new here, can you subscribe? Maybe you subscribe, or if you don't really like this content, I have more content on my channel that you can watch, such as the manga highlights, get time about art that I really need to get back onto, and certain other stuff that I'm really planning on in the future. So honestly, if you don't like this content right here, there's always more content for me to make and more content on my channel for you to watch. So yeah, this has been Stark OJ. Peace. Stark OJ. Peace. Stark OJ. Peace.